Hello everybody. This is the video for Thursday, April 2. Hope you guys are doing well. This is going to be a very short video. Your questions that you have on my AP today are going to be about things that we've talked about before, in keeping with having a picture every day. This is me, this is my son Jack, and this is my daughter Katie. We are out in the Keys somewhere off of Key Largo, having the time of our lives. All right, let's get started. So questions today are going to deal with monetary versus fiscal policy and what types of changes that can cause. And we'll also have a little bit of crowding out. So, you might get questions about deficit spending and how that changes things, or what happens if the money supply increases, or what if we choose fiscal policy versus monetary policy. And I'm going to tell you that one way to think about this, and I think this will be helpful when analyzing these questions, is to just remember the difference between fiscal versus monetary. Is whenever somebody is, the government is spending money or changing tax policy. But both of those changes will have the same effect, because both of those changes will affect aggregate demand. It'll either shift aggregate demand to the right or to the left. All right, and so we can think about how that would change our intersection with short-run aggregate supply or maybe long-run aggregate supply, which, by the way that I have this drawn with aggregate supply here and my intersection of short-run demand and supply right here, do you remember what this is called? Where my current output is above potential GDP. This is an inflationary gap. Versus if I had, if long run was up here, then that would be called a recessionary gap. But I have it right there, so I have it set up as an inflationary gap. So anyway, fiscal policy changes aggregate demand, whereas monetary policy shifts the money supply. All right, and so it makes changes by changing things like interest rates, right? When you shift this, interest rates change, and when interest rates change, that does affect investment spending, and so it eventually will end up affecting aggregate demand. But it does so by first shifting money supply. All right, so fiscal policy is aggregate demand, and monetary policy is money supply, which then leads to interest rate changes, which can lead to investment spending changes, which obviously changes aggregate demand. All right. The last thing I want to talk about is just crowding out. Very, very poorly written there, but crowding out is when the government borrowing money makes it harder for everybody else to borrow money, right? The government debt is crowding out investment spending. And how does it do that? Well, if the government has to borrow a bunch of money, it reduces the supply of money. Money becomes scarce. And what happens when any product becomes scarce? The price goes up. Well, what is the price of money? Interest. Right? So crowding out will cause interest rates to go up because it reduces the supply of money. All right, that's all I've got. Go do your questions. So far, people are doing really well on questions, so very glad to see. And by the way, if you haven't noticed, I'm going to start putting videos in that address the most missed questions. So if you go back to Monday's assignment, you'll see that I've posted a follow-up video that addresses the most missed questions from that assignment. It's a very brief video. It just takes a minute to watch. All right, you guys have a great day.